What's up, guys? Welcome to Mass Effect Talks. It's been a while, but here we are. Today we're going to talk about Dr. Liara T'Soni. I'm going to try to focus more on telling a little bit of her actual story and then what I think about that and what Liara really means to me in my playthrough, to my Shepard, that kind of thing. So Liara was born on Thessia in 2077, so that makes her about 106. So she's very young, even considered a child almost in Asari years. As knowledgeable as she is when it comes to studying the Protheans and all that, you do see that she's very timid, she's not very savvy when it comes to life, when it comes to living your life out in the universe, and being part of a society. She's very secluded. She likes to work on her own, and she likes to do this. She got in the habit of working alone because it's almost like this imprint in her that she kind of put on herself because of her history, because of her past, because of who she is. Her mother was a matriarch Benezia, but Liara never knew her father, at least not until Mass Effect 3. She didn't know who her father was, but she did know that Benezia's second partner was an Asari. So she was pretty sure that was probably her father. And she figured that since pure-blood Asari, which means that your mother and your father are Asari, pure-blood Asari are kind of looked down on. There's kind of like a social stigma on purebloods because of the whole Ardak thing. There's a higher possibility that an Asari will be an Ardak if it's a pureblood. As much as you might think that the Asari want to mate, or they kind of have that in their mind where it's like, no, we should mate with our own species. It's actually the other way around. Like they feel that they should mate with other species. I feel like it might be because of how powerful their biotics are and how they're natural biotics. So maybe bringing two Asari together, that probably could cause problems when it comes to the offspring. But this is exactly why Liara kind of grew up alone, like kind of why she secluded herself from society. She felt that social stigma. I mean, even though she's not an Ardak, she believed that her father didn't want anything to do with her because she was a pureblood. Especially in Mass Effect 1, that's when you could really feel this it was very pronounced that this is probably what was going on with her, that she was, I mean, you could tell the way that she would interact with the crew, the way that she would interact with Shepard. She was always very timid. It was like she didn't have a lot of experience with being with people. She spent 50 years of her life studying the Protheans, so pretty much half of her life was all dedicated to that. Her main focus in studying the Protheans was how the Protheans went extinct. And that's how we come in contact with her in Mass Effect 1, was because you find out that she is a matriarch Benezia's daughter, and matriarch Benezia was being used by Saren and was indoctrinated by the Reapers. So Shepard goes to her daughter to see if he could find out more. And that's where you find her in Therum, where she was at this dig site. She was chased by the Geth. She was stuck in this biotic field, I think, so that the Geth couldn't get to her. I feel like Liara doesn't just play a major role in the story, but also plays a major role in Shepard's relationships. Like I feel like BioWare really wanted her to be the one. Like you could tell throughout all the games that she was always the one, like the companion, the number one companion. Even if you don't like Liara, because in Mass Effect 1, I didn't romance Liara. I romanced Ashley. I mean, their other squad mates are also very powerful relationships when it comes to Shepard, like Garrus, Tali, and all that. There's just something special about the interactions between Liara and Shepard, and you see it so much more in Mass Effect 3. I slowly fell in love with Liara. Like, in the beginning, she was just like, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of gear more towards the stronger characters. So like my favorites were like Rex and Garrus. It's not like I don't like them, but I just the ones that attract me are the stronger characters, or the ones with like a very messed up past or something like that. But the very innocent characters, usually I'm just like, whatever. In all honesty, I didn't really feel this special connection with Liara until Mass Effect 3. And I felt it with my Shepard as well. Like, it was just like, dude, this is so cool. Like, I just loved their friendship. Because, like I said, I didn't romance her. But the friendship, you guys might disagree, but I feel I loved the interactions with Liara. And, I mean, it's there in Mass Effect 2. I mean, it's like, it's thrown in your face that the three characters that were romanceable in Mass Effect 1, the only one that stuck by her side, that kind of stuck by her side, that would have if she wasn't doing anything because she was doing something else, was Liara. And pretty much Ashley and Kaidan spit in your face. And Liara was like, you know, if you had romanced her, I mean, she still hugs you, she still gives you a kiss, and she's like, you know what, I can't join you right now because, you know, I'm doing this with the whole thing that she was doing with the Shadow Broker and all that. I mean, she was starting to become a completely different character from who she was in Mass Effect 1, because in Mass Effect 1 she was pretty weak when it came to her personality, who she was. I think she didn't really know who she was. That's one of the things that I love about Mass Effect, is that you see the transition and the growth of these characters. I talked a little bit about that when it came to Tali as well in my previous Mass Effect talks, and Garrus. You see how they grow. And the same thing happened with Liara. She grew so much throughout Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. In Mass Effect 1, you could tell that Liara is extremely, I mean, she's always been very sympathetic, very empathetic, but you could see that that it would, the emotions would take more of a toll on her in Mass Effect 1. Of course, you see her break down in Mass Effect 3, but it took a lot for her to get there. Like, she becomes this really strong person in Mass Effect 3 so much that you're just like, whoa. Like, this is a completely different person. The minute I saw her, the minute you first see her again in Mass Effect 3, you could tell that she's completely changed. Where it's like, oh my god, like this Liara seems like she's starting to get ruthless. Like, so much has happened to her that she's just like, no. Like, this is, I'm not that weak little Asari, the young Asari that had her head in the books all the time and in dig sites and all that. No, now she had this huge responsibility and she needed to save lives. And I think what happened there, or what really instigated that, was Shepard's death in Mass Effect 2. Again, she was the only one that fought for Shepard. She was the only one that searched for him. She was the only one that said, I have to find his body. Nobody else did it. And that is another thing that stands out about Liara, that she was there for Shepard even after his death. And if it hadn't been for her, the collectors would have gotten Shepard's body. Everybody accused Shepard in Mass Effect 2 for working with Cerberus, but Liara did the same thing. Liara had done the same thing. She quote unquote worked with Cerberus for just a moment to get Shepard's body in the, you know, instead of having Shepard with the collectors, she was like, it better with Cerberus. That is all explained in the Redemption comic. That comes before, that comes right after a Mass Effect 2, when the beginning of Mass Effect 2, when Shepard dies. Liara goes and looks for Shepard's body, and she's doing this alone. Nobody else was there with her, except for the Drell Farron, which, if you haven't read the comics, he's the same Drell that was in the Shadow Broker DLC. So, like I was saying, Liara, for a little bit, sides with the Elusive Man, because she's like, it's either collectors or the elusive man. And she sides with Cerberus, but she makes it clear that it's more for Shepard, not for Cerberus. And that's exactly what Shepard does in Mass Effect 2. He sides with Cerberus, but to get to the Reapers, not because he's becoming part of Cerberus, like Ashley and Caden accused him of. Going back to Matriarch Benezia, when I first played Mass Effect 1, I had the impression that Matriarch Benezia was not a good mother. I was like, she's probably not a good mother. But I think what was influencing that was how I was seeing her. Like, even though Liara would say, you know, would look very worried about her mother, I was like, oh, she was probably like a jerk or whatever. But later you find out that she wasn't. Later you find out that she was a really good mother, and you find out that she really loved Liara, and Liara really loved her mother. You really don't find that out until Mass Effect 3. And if you hear her talk about her mother in Mass Effect 3, like when she's on the Citadel and she's like looking out and she's telling you about how she's remembering when she was with her mother and all that, and it's just like, and if you remember back in Mass Effect 1, I mean, she saw her mother die. She saw her mother do horrible things, and it's just like, that sucks. You don't really, I think, at least for me, you don't really see the impact of what Liara was going through in Mass Effect 1 until you hear her talk about it in Mass Effect 3. That's when you're just like, God, could you imagine? No wonder she grew such a tough skin. I mean, without her even saying anything, the first time you see her in Mass Effect 3, her look even looks different. Like she looks ruthless. Like she looks almost unemotional in that moment when she kills that Cerberus soldier. And that was the first thing that jumped out. I was like, whoa. Later, the Shadow Broker. That DLC, as great as it was, I think it was so much better for people that had romanced Liara, because that DLC was making up for what the people that had romanced the characters in 1 and missed out with those romances in 2. It was making up for that, because the people that romanced Ashley or Caden didn't get that. It was like, we didn't get that until Mass Effect 3 again. With Liara, in Mass Effect 2, it was like, oh, shoot, I can't romance her. But come later of the Shadow Broker, and you get these amazing scenes with her if you romanced her. So it was like making up for that. And I thought that was amazing that they did that. Even the romance scene in Mass Effect 3 with Liara is something different. It's taken up a little bit. I don't know what you guys think, but that's how I feel. I feel like the Liara romance scene in Mass Effect 3 is probably one of the most special ones. After the Redemption comic, she actually makes a little appearance in the anime, the James Vega anime, Paragon Lost. One of the Asari, the one named Tria, contacts Liara. Tria is actually Liara's apprentice, which I was like, oh, snap. She does make a little appearance. It's only a hologram, but she does talk a little bit about the Reapers and all that stuff, and the involvement of the Prothean extinction and that kind of stuff. But here we find out that after the whole Reaper incident, and how Liara was almost obsessed with finding out about the Reapers and all that, especially because of what she had gone through with Shepard, and knowing that this was a real threat, but the whole galaxy never believed them. She focused a lot on finding more about the Reapers instead of the Protheans. Like, she was still studying the Protheans, but now with the Reaper involvement, and she was starting to realize that the Prothean extinction was related to the Reapers. And all of this actually gave her a bad reputation. Like, her academic career, her reputation all kind of went downhill, because a lot of people up in higher positions didn't really believe the existence of the Reapers. A lot of people in the galaxy still believed that Sovereign was Saren's flagship. That it wasn't a Reaper. No, it was just Saren's flagship. And Saren was the one behind all of it. And the whole thing with the Collectors in Mass Effect 2, oh, well, it was the Collectors. It wasn't the Reapers. And if it hadn't been for her in Mass Effect 3, a lot of things that happened, a lot of crucial things that happened were because of her. In Mass Effect 1, I mean, she was the one that saw Shepard's visions. In Mass Effect 2, she was the one that stuck by Shepard's side and got his body. Because she gave it to Cerberus, Shepard was brought back to life. That was because of Liara, because if Liara hadn't been involved, the Collectors would have gotten Shepard's body, and that would have been bad. And even though she didn't join you in Mass Effect 2, she was still doing a lot of really important research on the Shadow Broker. If it hadn't been for this, what she was doing in Mass Effect 2, it would have never led to Liara the Shadow Broker, which was one of the biggest things that could have happened to her because she became the freaking Shadow Broker. And that was like your biggest asset for Mass Effect 3 because you got a lot of information from that. From Liara and the whole thing that she was doing on Mars. I mean, she found those archives. That was in the HOMEWORLDS comic. She goes to Kaji to investigate a Prothean ruin. She figured to go here because of the Hanar worship the Protheans. So she was like, there's got to be some kind of Prothean ruins here. So she went there and she found some encryption keys for Prothean archives that led to Mars. The elusive man figures this out and stops her, and he's pretty much like, you know, we could be a partnership and we could help each other out, and like you're weak as the Shadow Broker and you need me and this and that. They would have made a partnership if it hadn't been for Tim not doing what Liara was asking of him, because she was like, I can't trust this guy. So she's like, no, next time you want to kill me, you better send an army, girl. So this is where Liara goes to Hackett and tells him what she found. And he's like, okay, yeah, go look for this stuff. This is before the Reapers attacked Earth. So that's why when the Reapers attack Earth, Liara is on Mars. But she was interrupted again by Cerberus because the elusive man had sent agents after her to Mars. So that's why she was battling those Cerberus people when you arrive on Mars. So in Layer of the Shadow Broker, I think this is probably one of the reasons. I mean, not only is it a great DLC, it's not my favorite DLC, but I think a lot of people love this DLC, especially if they romanced Liara. If I had romanced Liara, this would probably be one of my favorite DLCs. I don't know if it would top my favorite DLC, which is Overlord, but I think I would love it so much more if I had romance Liara, because there's so much more to it. There's so many little special moments, like Shepard just hugging her, kissing her, and then when he invites her up to the Normandy. I mean, this happens whether you romance her or not, but she finds that his tags. I was thinking about this. I was like, the longest lasting love relationship in Mass Effect is Liara. There's no other love relationship, love interest that has lasted as long as the Liara relationship, because it has literally lasted, I mean, unless you break things off with her, it runs through Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. You get a romance scene in Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. And by 2, I mean Lair of the Shadow Broker. Even though Mass Effect isn't really about the romances, it's not about that, it still adds so much to your character to have that kind of relationship with one of your crew, like one of the characters that you love. It just makes the story so much more personal. It really invests your emotions into it, and it makes you grow to love these characters more, and it makes you grow to love Shepard more, because you're seeing him react in these ways, and you're just like, you root for it, you know? I mean, you have the choice to not romance anyone. You don't have to. The majority of people do. Why? Because you root for them. Like, you root for these characters. You love these characters. Some people are perverted and they're like, oh yeah, alien sex, whee! So in Mass Effect 3, Liara no longer has the Shadow Broker ship that she had in Lair the Shadow Broker, because the elusive man, Cerberus, had caught up to the ship, and her and Farron pretty much tried to save everything they could, and sent the Shadow Broker ship, crashing into the Cerberus vessel. She pretty much transformed Miranda's headquarters into the Shadow Broker, into her little Shadow Broker office, and she's got all these little cool things. And then there's Glyph, of course, which is a VI. She renamed it. She reprogrammed it so that it responded to Glyph. I always loved going into that room. I don't know why. Like, I loved to hear the little sound of like what she was listening to, like just like, you know, it's like the computers were running, and you're just like, ooh, all the secrets of the world are in here. When you get Liara after Mars and all that, and after your squad mate is hurt, either Kaden or Ashley, the way that Liara looks at you, like, I found it weird. Like, I was like, what is wrong with Liara? She was so different to me that I was like, why is she looking at me like she was just so hardcore. She was like, I was like, what did she do? Like, she's up to something. I thought she was up to something. But then it started to make sense. I was like, this is awesome. You know, she had grown this tough skin, and she was this strong person now. So I think she was like, I need to assist Shepard while he's off doing his stuff, or while in Mass Effect 3 when he was in freaking custody, she was like, I need to do this stuff. Like, if I don't do it, nobody's gonna do it. If it hadn't been for the stuff that she found on Mars, they would have never known about the Crucible. Then, of course, I've got to go into Javik. I can't imagine Mass Effect 3 without Javik. I know that he's a DLC, so I'm like, there are people out there that don't have Javik. Javik is a huge character. And not only because of himself, but also when it comes to Liara. I mean, the things that Liara finds out with Javik are just, they turn everything completely around. They pretty much take everything that Liara has studied and they just throw it out the window. Those 50 years, those 50 plus years that she spent, her whole life, not just those 50 years, but her whole life, thinking one thing, it just gets turned on its head, and it's like, no, no, girl, you're stupid. It just flush. First of all, she figures out that the Protheans were completely different. Like, she was like, I thought they were like this amazing race that was like, oh, so intelligent and all this. But with Javik, I mean, they are intelligent, but she sees that they were such a completely different race than what she had thought. They were imperialistic. They were a military type of race. And Javik is just so cold and so distant and like so uninterested and so hard when it comes to like saving someone or killing them. He will quickly say, if there's a problem, kill him. Toss him out the airlock. She was obsessed with the Protheans. She wanted, this was her dream, to meet a Prothean. And it's Javik. It's kind of like that saying where it's like, it's better to never meet your idols. It's better to never meet the people that you look up to. It just sent Liara, like, she blew up. I love that scene where she explodes on Javik. I absolutely love that scene because it says so much. It just, everything that she had inside her that composed Liara, that always had it under control, where she's like, she had the answer to everything. In that moment, she was just like, everything just exploded. Because not only was she wrong about the Protheans, but she was also wrong about her own history. She was wrong about the Asari history. The whole thing about the goddess, it was all Protheans. And she's just like, no, this is not happen. This is not real. I mean, you've gotta take Javik on Thessia. In that mission, you have to take Javik. Everything he says in that temple, I was like, Like, where she's like, oh, this is... Liara's like, oh, this is the goddess. And, like, she's stating some kind of history. I mean, she knows it. Like, she studied it in school. And, like, every Asari is told this. It's, like, part of your culture. Like, part of your history. It's like somebody telling an American, oh, yeah, George Washington, he was a robot. And you're just like, I knew it. That's what Javik was doing. Oh, yeah, that's a Prothean. Doesn't it look like a Prothean? Duh, that's a Prothean. And they're like, but what about the goddess? That's a Prothean. I was literally telling Javik, I was telling the screen, I was like, Javik, just stop, dude. I was like, this is messed up. I was like, just stop. So when she returns to the Normandy after that mission, that mission was hard. That mission was emotionally, I think that was the most... I mean, obviously there are other missions that were very emotionally, it was hard emotionally because you either lost somebody or something. But that mission, even though you didn't lose somebody, it's like a crew member, it was an emotional wreck. Oh my God. Like everything that happened to Liara, just seeing her, you didn't even have to lose her to feel like you lost somebody. I mean, just the fall of Thessia. The Asari. The freaking Asari. I was like, oh my God. And you couldn't do anything about it. You were helpless. That was such a good mission. I mean, I sound like a masochist because I was just saying that was hard. But I was like, but I love it. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, obviously, I love seeing the hero, succeed and all that. But I want to see the hero fail as well. It just adds more reality to it. It's like, this is what life is about. Life is not a box of chocolates. Seeing that kind of breakdown from Liara when after Thessia, where she's on the bed and she's looking through those photographs and she's just crying. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God. That was such a good scene. That was such a great mission. Those are the scenes that make me remember just how real Mass Effect 3 was. And you know what I loved about it as well? Was seeing Shepard. That's one of my favorite moments of Mass Effect 3 when after Thessia, immediately after Thessia, it goes to the comm room and you could see the little light blinking that it's Hackett, that he's calling you, and Shepard's just standing out on the doorway, like he's just looking at it, or he or she just looking at it, and it's kind of like, that he's just like, what am I gonna say? Like everything has been lost. Like, we don't have the catalyst. We can't finish the crucible. The elusive man, Kai Lang, left with it. Freaking Thessia just fell. It's like, what do I say? Oh, and actually it wasn't even Hackett. It was the Asari Council. Oh my God. I had never seen Shepard like that. Where he's lost. Where it's like, this is it. I failed. Then, of course, we come to Liara's father. I wish they would have left it a mystery. Like, who was Liara's father? Nobody knows. A lot of people always figured that it was her, Matriarch Theta from Mass Effect 2. Theta, I don't remember how to pronounce her name, but the bartender. I mean, because she was looking at the picture of Liara and all that in Liara the Shadow Broker. And I was just like, I hope it's not her. Because I felt like, I don't know, I feel bad saying it, but I felt like it was too, like, really? Liara's parents were both matriarchs. I mean, that is pretty big. But I would have preferred it to be a mystery. I would have preferred that mystery to never have been answered. I did like when you go to Liara and you're just like, you could tell her that that's her father, and you're just like, that's by the way, by the way. And she's like, oh yeah, I know. I love that. I love that part. Like, that was cool how they did it, where she's just like, I know. In Mass Effect 3, experiencing Liara as a friend. She was one of my Shepard's best friends in Mass Effect 3, and it was something that I never expected. I didn't really feel the friendship until Mass Effect 3. Like, that's where I was like, I love this friendship, because it made me feel like my Shepard almost preferred to have had something more with Liara than with Ashley, because it was like Liara was always there for him, and it was like she gave him so much more than Ashley ever did. Like, Liara was just what he needed. I felt like that's how my Shepard felt. You know, one of my favorite scenes is towards the end of Mass Effect 3, where Liara shares her gift with you. I love it when you romance her, but I love it even more as a friend, because it's just so sweet. It's, oh my god. I was like, that is the best scene ever. Like, she shares the gift with him. Like, Shepard is seeing this, like, in her mind or whatever. She grabs his arm and, like, puts her head on his shoulder, and he's, like, all close to her too. I was like, oh my god, that's so... Oh, it made me want to cry, because I was like, that was so sweet. Like, that was such a perfect touch to a great friendship. You didn't have to romance her to get amazing scenes in Mass Effect 3. Also, when she goes up to your cabin to talk about the capsule that she's going to make, warning everybody about the Reapers. And by the way, that capsule is probably going to play a role in the next Mass Effect. If they do Mass Effect in the future and not in the past. If they go for a story in the future, that capsule might make an appearance. Liara's in the extended cut, you do hear her narrating in the capsule. If everything went to hell, if everything goes to hell, then Liara is the one narrating, and it's pretty much the capsule, what she put in the capsule. And it helped. Like, what she did help. That generation was able to hold back the Reapers. That generation was able to survive without getting attacked by the Reapers, because they did what Liara said. They took all those precautions and everything. So I was like, how big is that? I mean, right there, that's another huge thing that Liara did. And I'm just like, that's going to be really cool if that capsule comes back in the future. If they do another Mass Effect in the future, that they might bring that up. I was like, man, moments like these, they really didn't need to put that moment in there. They could have just been like, oh yeah, Liara made a capsule, by the way. But they put these little tiny moments that were just so perfect. It was just like, it was so small and so, it was like you really didn't need that. But it was meaningful, and it adds so much more to it, and it just made you go, I love this character. Like, I love this friendship. I love this relationship. One of the funniest scenes to me in Mass Effect 3 with Liara is when Joker is asking her about her hair tentacles, whether they move or not. Shepard could tell Joker to just leave her alone. But if Shepard tells Liara to tell Joker, like, you know, just tell him. She says that there's slightly flexible cartilage in the tentacles attached to the skull crest. So, I mean, she doesn't really say yes or no, but by saying they're slightly flexible, I think she means that they could move a little bit. And it was all a bet. Like, it was all a bet between Joker and Vega. And I think it was Joker that had bet Vega that they do move. And Vega was like, no way that they don't move. So if she says that they're semi-flexible, I think Joker's really happy, because I think he was the one that won the bet. But when it comes to the relationship between Liara and Javik, it's very rocky throughout the whole game. Because Liara expected one thing and Javik is not giving that to her, where he's just like, no. Eventually they do start to kind of respect each other. And I think Liara starts to accept that she was wrong, that what she thought is not the way that they were. They talk about, like, making a book together. I think they were going to call it The Journeys with the Prothean. Finally, in the Citadel DLC, I didn't know this, but if you're involved, if your love interest was a non-combatant character like Steve or Trainer, Liara is the one that shows up to help you in the beginning of the Citadel DLC, where you're attacked and all that. Instead of your love interest like Ashley or Garrus, it's Liara. Really liked, again, Liara in Citadel, where she goes to the apartment and she starts playing the piano. I found that so sweet, and it's kind of like a mixture of Vigil's song in there. It was like, oh my god, it was such a great moment. I really love this line that she says, something like, we forget about how much we could learn when we're doing nothing, or something like that. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Liara. Let me know what you guys think about Liara in the comments down below. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Welcome to Mass Effect... What? Girl, what'd you say? T'Soni. Dr. It sounds like somebody from the mafia. Don T'Soni. You not T'Soni.